Hey everyone, welcome back to the walkie-talkie. I've been in Hungary, back home visiting family, my little brother's graduation, and then I've been sick, so that's why I haven't been walking and talking in a while. But today I kind of want to combine about 6-ish years of experience at university and talk to you about how to write good assignments. Yeah, I know, it's quite a big topic, and I definitely do not claim to have every answer known to mankind. But I feel like I have a pretty good perspective now because, I was a decent student. I always scored okay on most assignments and tests. Now I am a teaching assistant. So I just had the pleasure of grading a bunch of assignments for a course. I think, since I'm close enough to being a student, but now also graded about 100,000 words worth of assignments, I think I kind of had some of my student suspicions confirmed from the perspective of a teacher, which is super interesting. Okay, so when I was a student, my strategy always was to put enough effort in an assignment to make sure it passes. And then if I particularly like the course, then I really put in the work to make it nice, But generally, I became just very proficient at writing assignments which make sure that they pass. And I had a few heuristics on how to actually do that. And today I kind of want to share a few with you because some of them I had confirmed today. I think the key to writing good assignments is always kind of guessing what the teacher wants to hear. Like when you read the question, you have to think about what the question actually is, what they expect you to answer to it. And that is a very underrated skill. And sounds much easier than it is. But across the board, I think it all starts with the rubric, because you will have questions in the assignment, that's good, but then the rubric is the one that will actually determine your grade. And it's very important to know what exactly you're getting graded on when you are writing an assignment. And my strategy usually was to combine the rubric and the assignment questions to provide the structure for the assignment, basically. So if you have 3 questions in the assignment, and then for each you have 3 points in the rubric, then you will have 3 main headers and 3 subheaders under each, and that should be a pretty sufficient baseline to structure your assignment for. I think that's a really good start. So if you have that already shows that you thought about it and you kind of have an idea on what you're doing. And that just goes a really long way with the grader. Now, I can say that speaking from experience. The other big piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, is making it really easy for teachers to let you pass. That sounds silly, I know. But it's as I was grading the assignments, it was much nicer and easier to grade assignments where students specifically highlighted where they addressed certain rubric criteria. So if the assignment was, use the Scrum methodology, and then tell us, and then they just had a header, how we use the Scrum methodology, then I can just look at it and be like, oh, that's great. This is exactly what the question was, and then I know where to find stuff. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with formatting your assignment. Make sure that it's nice and consistent and easy to read and easy to assess. Because at the end of the day, rubric here and there will be a subjective element to grading assignments. And that subjective element will depend on how the grader feels about the work that you just submitted. And if it's a nicely formatted, pretty assignment, it's just so much easier to kind of get those fraction of a point subjective goodwill points in your pocket. And when every point counts, we are not picky here. We take what we can get. Another factor, which I think is pretty underrated but quite important, is using the same words as the assignment. I understand that if you use different words from the same concepts, it could be the same, yes. It just makes it harder to assess. Because if you're using the same word, I know that we mean the same thing because it's the word we used in the course. If you use a different word, I need you to define that word and argue why that is a correct word to use. And I think that's quite non-trivial, and a lot of people, I run into that quite often with the assignment that I was grading currently, I understood that people meant the same thing, what I thought they meant, but since they didn't use the same words, it was kind of like a mental gymnastics for me. And again, that's where you kind of get on the bad side of a grader, because if I have to Google a framework to verify that, oh yeah, this is actually the same framework as we are using, or it does the same functionally, but it just called different, then that just makes it a little harder. So my advice would be to always use the lingo of the assignment and of the course. It will just make your life easier in the long term. First, there is also an argument to be made about the prose that you write, making sure that it's actually enjoyable to read. This is kind of teacher dependent though, so be careful with that, because some teachers enjoy a bit of humor or a bit more light-hearted. For example, a student that I was grading came up with fictional names for like characters in their assignment, and they were like combinations of the names from the characters of Friends, which it's a small thing, you know, but it made it just like a little bit more enjoyable. I had a chuckle when I put it together. And that is a hit or miss. It's kind of like a high risk, high reward game. Wow, I am exposed so well. Thank you, DGI. That's a bit of a high risk, high reward game, but know your teacher. That's also a piece of an advice I would give to people, that consider the teacher and consider how they teach, what style, like what is their style in teaching, and how they would grade. Because at the end of the day, that's the core of this concept, to make sure that you think about who is grading your assignment and what they want to hear, how you can make their life as easy as possible. That's the point of this whole, like all of the tips that I'm giving you now are all about how to make the grader's life as easy as possible. You want to make it so easy for the grader to let you pass that it's almost a mental gymnastics to pick out the flaws in your work to fail you, which sounds a bit silly, but if you have an assignment where you step by step answer every question, you consider the rubric, you use the words, it's obvious where you are answering every question, the whole thing structured, as long as you are not like really off, I would say that more often than not, you're gonna pass with that. It doesn't have to be exceptional work to pass. If you just put in that effort, it will show that you put in that effort, and that will go a really long way. Of course, another part of the discussion that we cannot omit in 2024 is the use of AI and chatgpt. And it's very funny because now, after reading quite a few assignments, I have a few thoughts on this. So this is just a bit of bonus ramble. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going. We'll figure it out together. So first of all, teachers can tell. If a grader has used the GPT themselves, they can 100% tell when you are using it. If a teacher hadn't used GPT before, but they grade enough assignments, they will pick up the differences. So they just like start there. Don't think you are fooling anyone. No, we can tell. But it's also fine. And that's the other part, why it's fine. I think it's a very interesting conundrum here, because a lot of people are very against using AI in assignments. For a reason, there are arguments against it. But at the same time, I graded assignments with really poor English. Like you could just see that the person was just rushing through it, no proofreading, a bunch of typos, broken sentences and stuff like that. And then there were other assignments which were GPT generated, or like the text was coming from a GPT, but the English was correct. And then which one is nicer to grade? The one with the correct English. So as long as the content is not from GPT, I think it's very similar to just sending Grammarly through your, like sending your assignment through Grammarly. But that's the trick there. Be smart. Do not get GPT to write the content for you. Write the content, give it 5 bullet points and be like, hey, write me a paragraph based on these 5 bullet points. Or even better, answer this question from the assignment based on these 5 bullet points, your input, and then it will put it together and give you a reply which is grammatically correct, reasonably pleasant to read, and also has your thoughts, not the statistically most average answer. Because, you know, if you know how a GPT works, it gives you the most cliche answer to every question that you can ask. That's just how it works. It's the statistically most probable answer to the question, which is fine. But at the same time, it's not going to produce any exceptional results. Another thing which I heard from people complaining that, oh yeah, you know, it's good prose is going to go away because everyone can just use GPT. Teachers also can tell when you didn't use GPT and when you just wrote nice prose. And of course, I'm grading a pretty technical course, so we are not grading on creative writing or anything. This is a data science master. So it's not not nothing literature. No shade on my artsy fartsy friends. I love you all. We really can tell when someone can write well. It's just that the baseline got higher. Good, decent grammar structure just became more accessible with GPT. You can just write a shitty broken draft, send it through GPT and be like, yeah, correct my grammar. And then it will just restructure a few broken sentences, add a few punctuation marks and whatnot, and then it's gonna be fine. But largely, I think GPT is fine, but please be smart about it. Do not make teachers read terrible GPT answers for stuff. Yeah, also my recommendation is get the GPT answer and then cool out all the words that GPT, like, there are a handful of words. You can just Google them. There are a lot of papers about how certain words kind of skyrocketed in use in scientific journals because they are words the GPT uses a lot. So just make sure. My recommendation would be give it the question, give it your bullet points, get a paragraph, and then go through that paragraph and actually cool out some of the words that are weird. Kind of form it, so do another pass on it. I know it's a bit of extra work, but it goes a long way. But yeah, that was my AI ramble for today. All right. I think that was all my thoughts on how to write good assignments in university. This got me through a bachelor and a master with decent scores, and now as a PhD candidate grading master level assignments. A lot of these were just confirmed for me. Of course, a disclaimer, I am by no means an expert on this. I'm a first year PhD candidate who graded one course's worth of assignments. So take it with a grain of salt. But across the board, I think these are principles that served me quite well over my own degree. And yeah, maybe they can help you out too. All right, bye.